agent review. We're going to review the corporate agent. The corporate agent is an agent that is created on the Power Platform of Microsoft 365 using the AI models hosted in Azure AI Foundry to make sure it's super safe, but is grounded with your company data. Now, this agent fits in between Copilot free or light to Copilot, the paid version. And the reason why most companies, especially larger organization, larger as in an organization that has 100 plus employees, should absolutely look at one of these corporate agents, and for many reasons. So before we get into the value add, let's highlight some of the features, and then we get into the business value of why you organization will want to go this route for the AI adoption for their team versus paying subscriptions to a full-blown Copilot. And let me just frame it this way. This does not replace Copilot. This is almost like a prerequisite or a baseline for your AI adoption, and we can dig into why. Okay, so here, this is a simple chat window. This corporate agent is going to be grounded on all of your detail. This one's actually using our company, Alventa. So it's really highlighting, it's grounded, and it knows everything about Alventa as far as like the products we serve, our mission and value statement, the services we provide, our ideal market, our ideal client base, so on and so forth. So because it's grounded in that, as a user, as an employee, all you have to do is click on new, and you have an option to select which type of LLM I need. Notice what we're doing here. We're not highlighting if it's using what ChatGPT does, if it's using an O3 model, or if it's using a 4.1 model or 4.5 model, or if it's using whatever the latest version of the mini. So we extract out the model version because in the back end, IT will make sure that each one of these respective categories are using the latest and greatest. Here's the other thing. IT will also, or your chief AI officer or your AI department will also determine if it's going to be OpenAI or if it's going to be Grok for some of these, or maybe it's going to be Meta for some of these, or whatever the case may be, right? So web research may actually be Perplexity, right? So, you're going to subscribe to Perplexity and everything that you want to research on the internet to where you're getting real-time data, you're going to be able to get that information back. So you have that flexibility within your AI department and IT team to determine which models are going to be the best models based on the LLM type that you're trying to interact with. So for deep research, for example, like this is probably one of the most advanced, and it does, and most of these calls take, if you do a research call, those can take anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes to come out because it's going out and scouring all the white papers, all the university papers, all the write-ups, all the responses, all of everything that's on the internet about whatever piece that you're researching. So it takes time, and it deploys multiple agents. The LLM deploys multiple agents to get this work done. Web research is going to be real-time data. So you can search on events that happen as of less than 24 hours ago on the internet. So that's going to be web search, and that's why Perplexity, as of right now, is fine-tuned in it for this. But when these are deployed when this corporate agent is deployed to the different client sites, there is, in the series of workshops, it will be determined which model we will use for each one of these categories. And their AI team or the IT team who's responsible for swapping these out will be able to grow with this over time. So that's the benefit. So let's just start here. So let's just start with a simple standard. And watch how I ask this question. So we're hiring for different roles and positions. So we may say something like, help me create. Okay, so I'm going to try something simple. Help me create a job posting for a senior marketing director. And then I'm going to execute. Now, the benefit, as this thing kind of works, of having a corporate agent that's grounded on the corporate data is that your users do not need to have prompt engineering skills, right? All they need to do is ask the question because the context of that question will always be related to the corporation. And that gives you a lot of flexibility, and you allow it to grow out in a meaningful way. So look at this result. So here it says absolutely senior marketing director for Alventa. Notice I didn't mention our company name at all, right? And it knows our locations, and it has what we believe in, our core business values and core services that we add. And then it goes into the job role itself. So as a senior marketing director, strategic role, crafting this, And then it just helps developing a comprehensive marketing strategy, PR, high performing, fostering team. All of this is all table stakes. Then it mentions Alventa conferences, 10 plus years, did that. CRM, ABM, so on and so forth. So marketing is really generic. It's not really tailor-made for our business, but it picked up on a lot of things that were germane to the business. Now let's look at a role that may have something more critical to our core services, that like how we operate, like how we develop AI agents and AI solutions and AI workflow processes. So let me ask this. Okay, great. Okay, so I said, great. Okay, now let's do a director of AI automation. Now, notice that how I framed this corporate agent also has prompt caching or memory baked into it as well. So it's going to take the context of my original question. It's going to look at the results that it did for that marketing role. And now it's just going to use that same context and do the exact same for a director of AI automation. Okay, great. Let's see what it returned. So if I come out here, all right, so same deal, has our locations, it has our what we believe in, client-facing strategy, AI, machine learning, RPA. Notice that it's all in the Microsoft ecosystem. This is all germane to Alventa on how we operate. AI engineers, how we stay ahead of technology trends. We are position ourselves to be a thought leadership. Notice the technology stack: Power Automate, Azure AI, Power Platform, everything that we like, our core recipe on how we operate. Notice what it did not mention. It did not mention some of the open source or Hugging Face or I don't even know all the names of them, but all the open source solutions that are needed for grounding and vectorizing and AI architecture design or agentic AI solutions and all these other ADA and MCP and all these other ones. But it mentioned the core services on how we implement and how we develop our solutions. Now, here's the thing. That's going to be the generic sense. So the corporate agent is going to give you all of your chat history, very similar to what we're used to. It's going to give you all of your different models that you can execute against. And now if we look at this, let's just take a look behind the scene on what actually get called to Azure AI Foundry. So if you look at this timestamp, so 2 minutes ago, if we click on this, and again, like all of our solutions are AI agents sitting on the Power Platform. We leverage Power Automate or Logic apps to be like that middle tier, our workflow engine, our logic engine, our rules engine, interacting with the API endpoint of the LLM, a whole catalog of LLMs hosted in Azure AI Foundry, keeping everything safe, secure within your environment. And this is an example of the call to the LLM. So we do this multi-layer approach, more of a microservices or a solution or a service-oriented architecture, because all of these child flows are independent and they have their own separation of concern. This is the one workhorse that does all of the getting and retrieving, sending and retrieving from the Azure AI model. So if you look at this call, I just want to show you this output. This has all your AI safety, your Azure AI safety built in, right? As you should do when you're making these calls. That's one of the benefits of making this call to Azure OpenAI. And then you would notice that when you look at the responses, you also have AI safety built in the responses. So there's an AI safety filter on the input, and then there's another AI filter on the response from the AI. And then if you look at here a little bit closer, you would notice the token count. And this is where things get interesting. So this prompt token, there's 8,700 tokens needed for that prompt. And there's 789 tokens that were used in the response. And this is the example of the job posting, right? So the total for that message series, including history, is 9,500 tokens. Now, this becomes important because when you compare the corporate AI agent to the licensing costs for Copilot, this is where the business value really starts to add up. So what does that look like? So let's fire up our whiteboard. Okay, so on the whiteboard, on the left-hand side, we have Copilot. And then on the right-hand side, we have our corporate agent built on the Power Platform, right? Now, this is how, when you're looking at the AI adoption, again, this is going to apply to any organization that has at least 100 employees. It could even be smaller. It just depends on what your budget appetite is and what's your growth strategy and what's your adoption strategy. This is how clients are taking a second look at this. One, the corporate agent is going to have similar smarts, in some scenarios, smarter than what you get with Copilot. Now, this Copilot is going to be $30 a user per month, and that's a minimum 12-month commitment. Okay, so you can quickly do the math on how that applies to you and what does that number mean for your user base. Now, one thing for certain and two things for sure is that to move the needle in your AI adoption, you have to have more employees using AI on the day-to-day. So if you have 100 users, let's just break this down. Let's just say we have your organization count is 1,000. And this could be, like, say, for example, if you're in manufacturing, let's just say this could be 1,500 total. But office workers, the ones who are like service or information workers, you have 1,000. That's like everyone that's on the phones, data entry, interacting with users, client engagement, managers, technical managers, so on and so forth. So let's just say 1,000 users. 10% of this, it's going to be 100 users. And once you do the math, just to get 10% of your org, which is not going to move the needle, even if these are power users, as an org, the macro strategy is to get as many of your users using AI on their day-to-day in a meaningful way in order to move the needle that says we're really taking advantage of AI as an organization. So with a 10% user base using AI, you're looking at a $3,000 a month licensing increase. And then if you look at, say you increase that to, you go to the next level where you have 250 users. So now you're moving the needle from 25%, from 10% to 25%. Now that count is $7,500. And that's only 25% of our information worker workforce that's using AI. Usually we like to move the needle on macro. You really want to be in that 60 to 70% range to really say, okay, we're really, as an org, taking advantage of AI and we have our users using it in a meaningful way. So what does that look like? So to move to that 75%, you got to have 750 users of your user base using Copilot. And that's going to increase your licensing costs $22,500 a month. And again, that's going to be a 12-month commitment. Right? Now let's look at the contrary. So if you look at, and this is one of the reasons why I went to this detail here. If you look at this, this is the token count it calls for one message, right? That is created by your user. And tokens are really charged usually by the millions, right? The price point is by the millions. So if you look at this, and it's really important to look at the prompt tokens versus the completion or the output tokens. So in this scenario, the prompt token is going to be 8,758. The output token is going to be 789, right? With a total, let's just round it up to 10,000 tokens per message, right? So if you look at this 10,000 tokens per message, let's just say it's 9,200 for the prompt and 800, I'm just rounding these all the way up just for easier math, for the 800 for the output. Okay, so let's look at the calculation of what it costs per message, or we probably have to round this up because the number is going to be so small, but what is it going to cost from a messaging perspective? And then I'll help you compare and contrast the cost or the business value of launching a corporate agent first as your first phase of your AI adoption. Okay, so for the GPT 4.1, which is going to be our standard, which is going to be probably most of the common ones that your users will use, you're looking at $2 for the input, and these are token costs, and then $8 for the output. And this is for 1 million tokens. So if you have 1 million tokens total, your cost would be almost a 90-10 split, right? So you would have $2 for the prompt or the input, and then you would have, and this would be 990,000. Oh, I'm sorry, 900,000 for the input, and then 100,000 for the output. So really 10%. So 10% of $8 would be 80 cents. So 1 million tokens will cost you $2.80, and that equates to 100 messages. So for every 100 messages, you're going to spend $2. So $2 per eight and $2.80. So you just call it $3 per 100 messages, right? So now if you have, and this is activity per user, let's just say your team is generating 100 messages a month. Let's just bump this all the way up to 1,000 messages per month. So every user will be doing 1,000 messages a month. So now you're $28 per 1,000 messages if we keep this rate and this ratio collectively. So now if you have, let's just look at your user count. Here's the benefit. You can throw all 1,000 users onto your AI adoption day one and pay 0 to whatever the message count is going to be based on those 1,000 users. Here's the other big distinction that you will make. This cost here, so even if you did 1,000, let's just add the last entry for the 1,000. The 1,000 users with Copilot licensing, your licensing increase to 30,000 a month with a 12-month commitment on top of what you're already paying as an organization. With this model here, I can put all 1,000 users on the system, and let's just say on average, every user sends, I'm gonna make this up, 100 messages in the month. So so if you have 1,000 users on average sending 100 messages per month, and that's an average. So out of that 1,000, because it's collective, right? The number of messages is collective around everyone that's participating in your AI adoption phase one. If you have users who are going to be more aggressive, that may be sending 3,000, 5,000 messages a month, then you got other users who are only just playing around with it, that's only sending 5, 10. It was nice, and then they come back with it. Once a week, they're probably just sending a handful of messages. Collectively, you can send 1 million messages for $2,800. Notice the difference in this. Now, I'm not even focused on the price. This scenario is usage. This scenario is seats, right? And understand the difference between them. This is 30,000 per seat. And that seat can be empty. Seat can be underutilized. That seat can be forgotten about, and you're just licensing people just for the sake of them having it. This is usage. Your folks sent 1 million messages last month, and it costs 2,800 in usage and token costs. And these are results. This is actual usage. So the huge difference is this is cheaper. It moves the needle, and I can get more people involved day one. Whereas this one has a direct impact on your budget, and there's no guarantee that all 1,000 of your users will be actively using it. There's no guarantee on this one either, but at least you're paying for what's being used versus paying for the potential that, okay, it's out there, use it. Like now you're building this campaign, begging people to use it because you're burning, not really say you're burning money, but your budget is at use every month in a significant way. And this is only 1,000 users. This is only 1,000 users. So this is the value add that you have. One, you can roll this out to as many people as possible, as fast as possible. You can continue your campaign, your center of excellence, to grow this in a way, support your users, get them to using AI, getting the peer-to-peer help framework in place to where other people are saying, hey, I'm using it for this, I'm getting great results here, and you're doing all this other good stuff, right? So the benefit of having a corporate agent at your phase one of the AI adoption is a huge cost benefit, and it allows you to open up the floodgates to allow more and more users to use it, even though they may not maximize or have mastered the prompt engineering. So that's one. The second one is this is tailor-made to your organization. We didn't even get into the specialized agents. These agents are grounded to your various department data. So for example, marketing, all of their policies, their procedures, their operating procedures on how they conduct their marketing, their schedules, all this other fun stuff will be available with this marketing agent. So say, for example, I can say something like, and it has access to the general knowledge that the AI bots or large language models have. So for example, if I say, create me a strategy to grow our services on TikTok to increase brand awareness, right? So now I'm execute. Again, as a user, this waters it all the way down. All the heavy lifting has already been done. All the prompt engineering has already been done. All the marketing data has already been primed and grounded with the LLM. And you look at these other agents, while that's cooking, you have the same for product. All the products and services that Oventa offer is grounded with this agent. All of our SOPs on how we interact with clients and deal with client data, deal with sensitivity, all the policies and procedures and our information that's in our NDAs, like everything is part of the SOP. The same is true for ISO. The same is true for our RAG pattern. So here, this helps our sales agents out when they're working with a client that want to, for example, build AI search on top of their email inbox or shared mailbox. This will help the sales agent understand how that's going to be done, what technologies are going to be used, what does the project process look like, so on and so forth. So things that they would normally pull a solution architect or someone from the engineering team in to answer these questions, now the sales rep have this level of detail on how we do it, how Alventa does it. What's our policy? What is our solution architect? What's our technical design to get these upgraded in a meaningful way? And then you have the HR bot. Now, this is the HR agent, again, that meant for employees to answer anything from 401k, benefits, the level of detail needed for each one of our carriers, the vision, the dental, the health, and it's all scenario based. And that's the benefit of AI in general, not just this corporate AI agent, but this is the benefit of AI in general, is that you can ask it and describe your scenario. So, for example, for HR, I may describe it like, okay, my wife is looking to have a surgery in the next 18 months. My teenage kids are now looking, they need glasses, are now my daughters and their age range. We're looking for braces. It's like I'm setting up all these medical events that we have planned, or even some reoccurring health issues that we may have. And I'm describing this, and then the HR agent will help me put together what plans, what level of plans, or what I need from the different carriers, because it has all that information. The AI is really good at considering many different parameters, and based on your scenario, coming up with a right solution, or giving you a couple of options, and also justifying why it's suggesting certain techniques versus another technique. Okay, let's look at this real quick. So here, this is our TikTok growth strategy for brand awareness. So it talks about the microbytes, the 30-second clips that's needed, sample things that you can highlight. Again, we can put in here, we can arm this marketing agent with a bunch of our case studies. We work with this client in this industry. This is what this was the problem that they have. This is the solution, and these are the results. And we can just keep priming it and priming it. And what this would do is create those TikToks, those LinkedIn carousels, those LinkedIn videos, those LinkedIn long form content, your blog posts, things that you may do on X, or whatever the case may be, whatever your social platforms are, right? This helps you generate that data in a meaningful way. And you can tell it to be abstract, or not even feed it the client name, right? You can be as abstract as you need it to be to make it safe to be presented in the public eye, and still get your point across with the value add of what you are pulling off. So these agents, these corporate agents, one, they're going to be a fraction of the cost of the same power and technology that you have with Copilot or any other AI agent that you may have on the Microsoft 365 platform. And they're going to be pre-grounded with the prompts, the data, and different aspects of your company. And you can grow these agents as you see fit. And you can secure these agents. The same things you can do with Copilot, you can do here. Now let me just end it with this. These corporate agents are not a replacement for Copilot. They're a prerequisite to Copilot. What does that look like? So if you go back to the whiteboard, here, let's imagine this is going to be your phased approach for your AI adoption. So the first thing you want to do is identify use cases, frameworks, business value. And this is so a lot of planning, right? And when I say frameworks, this is where the AI agent gets deployed, right? Because now you have something that people can use. Prior to this, you're using Copilot Light. Well, Copilot Light is a generic bot. Your people that get the real value out of it, they have to know prompt engineering, and they have to prompt it. And so some scenarios, they have to prompt it every time they want to use it. And you're not dealing with the latest models or the smartest models. With the corporate agent, you saw that, the deep reasoning, the research, the web search, and the full gamut. Like what you can do on ChatGPT in the public way, you now have that private ChatGPT smarts in a private way that's data regulated, secured by your tenant, your Microsoft 365 and Azure tenant. So here, this is where you deploy your corporate agent. Next, and you have what you can do next will vary. Next is going to be AI automation. And this is where you're going to get a handful of these that says, you know what, this is a business process that we have. We need the AI to do analytics or put the smarts in this part of the process, unloading the burden to our human employees, right? So this is where you do AI automation. And here, this is where you do corporate agents. You have your corporate agent, and you start to create specialized agents underneath that. Right? And with these specialized agents, if you flag back here, that's what you have here. Okay, what does marketing need? How does marketing make it? How does marketing work? What are all the documents and details needed for marketing? Let's go ahead and load that up. Same with product. Same with SOPs, generating SOPs, finding SOPs, searching everything that you need here. And then anything that assists the sales team. This is the RAG agent, because this is probably one of the most popular services that we offer. And then, of course, HR. HR wants to offload any of that frontline Q&A that they may have. And then for your organization, this is going to be different, and this can grow to many different flavors based on the business need, right? And that's where the business value in phase one really starts to shine. Okay, so now you have your automation kicked off. And I'm not saying like you maximize these from 0 to 100 before you move to the next. Just understand like what phase is needed. The only thing, even though you don't go from 0 to 100 here, just as, you know what, I need to get all 1,000 of my employees using corporate agents before I move to automation. No, you may strike automation at 25% or whatever the case may be. And then when you get to your agents and your AI automation, you may not automate every agent for every org and for every department in your org, right? Maybe you take the top 3 or whatever the case may be. And then you move over to, okay, now we're going to do a Copilot or a smart assistant or agent. And the thing about Copilot is this is where you start spending your licensing costs per seat, but you're doing this in a well-informed manner. Because what happens here in this phase one is that this is where out of those 1,000 people, you're going to have metrics that says, one, these 500 are our core users. Right? They're always using it. Their usage is higher, exponentially higher than everyone else. Like they bubble up to the top. So now I identify these 500, and it's going to be these 500 that I invite to the Copilot seat party, because this is where we know that $30 a month is going to add tremendous value, because they've already proven that they have business cases and they figured out where in their functional area to use AI, and they're doing it in a meaningful way. We're starting to see traction and data. The other thing is these agents that we create here in this AI automation, these can be transferable because these agents are triggered by an API in Power Automate. Copilot already has a Power Automate trigger to where if you create an agent or an assistant here and you already have the marketing one built or the HR one built, when we were using the corporate agent to call and interact with those, that's fine. These Copilots can use those as well. There's nothing that we're building here is exclusive to the corporate agent. These are enterprise agents that can be called anywhere, like really anywhere that you can call an API as a post request, you can benefit from these agents. The next level is when you add tools. This is where things get really exciting. When you add tools to your agents. And what does that mean? This is when you say over here, okay, create me a TikTok strategy. Okay, great. Email this to my team. Notice the language of that. Email this to my team. So when you say email, now this marketing agent understands what emailing is, or know which agent that manages email, which one to call and how to interact with that agent. That's when you get this agent to agent architecture to where these agents start interacting with each other to get work done, right? The next piece of that is my team. This is where you're taking full advantage of not just the Power Platform, because you can send email with Power Platform very easily. And you can structure that in a way to where other flows and Power Automate can call another flow, pass it to the subject line, the body of the email, maybe a CC email list, maybe a BCC email list, and have that agent send that email out. And if it's and flag it, maybe that says this is an internal email versus external, because with the external, there may be other disclaimer or legal text that needs to be at the footer of that email. And we probably want to make sure it's branded, right? So the email agent understands all of that. So when you get to this phase here, that's when you activate all of that magic. So you're going to have an email agent. You may have a ticketing agent that interacts with whatever your ticketing system is. Is that ServiceNow? Is that Zendesk? Is that whatever the case may be? Maybe it's Azure DevOps. Maybe it's Planner. Maybe it's a message within Microsoft Teams. Like, you got all these agents that start to light up that specialize in this workhorse or workload tooling. And now you're taking advantage of everything that you built in the prior phases, and your organization is ready for this. Again, to move from phase to phase, not saying that you have to maximize every level before you hit the next, but there are some foundational pieces that you need to have at that previous stage, because those are going to be prerequisites for that next stage. Okay, so look into, again, this is all about the corporate agent. The corporate agent enables you as an org to grow and accelerate your AI adoption. Do not allow budget to be that friction or the hindrance. And if you are spending money, you're spending money on results and usage, which is a much better position than spending money on seats where the usage may not be there. Okay, and now you have the data, you have the audit logs, you have everything that you need to see how you're progressing from every stage, and then use this phase staged approach to start chipping away at this AI adoption. Some orgs are going to move way faster than others. Some orgs are going to accelerate this and probably get this done in a matter of a couple of weeks and move straight to their AI automation, right? So this could be week 1 through 3, and this could be week 3 through 5, and this could be week 5 through 10, right? And then you get here, and this could be 10 plus. And all of these are ongoing. All of these are starting to work in parallel, where when you're in this week 5 through 10, not only did your Copilot get started, but then you move to a second level within stage 2, or you move to a third level within stage 3. That's what's happening week 5, right? So all of this can work in parallel. All of this can work in tandem. The key takeaway is leverage these agents built on the Power Platform, making secure calls within your environment, not using Grok public, not using ChatGPT public, not using Meta or DeepSync public, risking trading client data, business data over a public LLM. Leverage what you already have access to in Azure AI Foundry and accelerate this adoption by turning on and then deploying the tools in the Power Platform. Okay, so that's it for this. AI agents can really be a game changer. Take a closer look. If you have any questions, just reach out. We're here to help.